Emergency landing. The Wanderer's call shuddered violently as another blast caught its port stabilizer. Captain Ren Voss gripped the controls with white knuckles, trying to hold the ship together through sheer force of will. Warning lights bathed the cockpit in an angry red glow as system after system failed around him. "Come on, just a little longer," Ren muttered through gritted teeth. The ship wasn't listening. It never did when it mattered most. The attack had come from nowhere. A sleek vessel with military-grade weapons where no military ships should be. One moment, Ren had been cruising through the Vega Drift, transporting medical supplies to the outer colonies, and the next he was in a desperate fight for survival against an assailant who hadn't bothered with demands or warnings. The navigation system flickered one last time before dying completely. Ren cursed and switched to manual controls, a skill few pilots bothered to master anymore. Through the view screen, he could see a small planetoid looming ahead, its surface a chaotic patchwork of metal and scattered lights. Salvation or tomb, it didn't matter anymore. The Wanderer's call wouldn't make it to the next system. Emergency landing protocols initiated, Ren announced to the empty cockpit, an old habit from his military days. The ship's eye had gone silent minutes ago, another casualty of whatever weapon had been used against him. Entering the atmosphere was like riding a meteor. Heat shields designed for controlled descents screamed under the pressure of Ren's desperate approach. Pieces of the outer hull tore away, trailing fire against the darkening sky. The ground rushed up faster than any sane pilot would allow, but sanity had left the equation several astronomical units back. The impact came with a sound no ship owner ever wants to hear. The distinctive crunch of a vessel that would never fly again without miraculous intervention. Ren's safety harness dug into his shoulders as he was thrown forward, then back. His head connected with something hard, and darkness closed in. When consciousness returned, it came with the taste of blood and the smell of burning circuitry. Ren blinked, trying to focus as pain lanced through his skull. The cockpit was dark, emergency power providing only the faintest illumination. Outside, he could see nothing but twisted metal and occasional sparks. He released his harness with fumbling fingers and stood on shaky legs, grabbing his emergency pack from beneath the console. The ship's internal atmospheric readings were still functional enough to tell him the air outside was breathable, if barely. Small mercies. The main hatch was jammed. Ren forced it open with a hydraulic crowbar, muscles straining against the warped metal. When it finally gave way, he stumbled out into the strange half-light of the planetoid. He'd crashed into what appeared to be a massive scrapyard, a graveyard of ships stretching to the horizon in all directions. Hulking shadows of derelict cruisers and freighters created an artificial skyline under the purple-tinged atmosphere. The air tasted metallic, with undertones of fuel and oxidized steel. "Well," Ren said aloud, surveying the damage to his ship, "that could have gone better. Could have gone a lot worse too, Spacer. Most folks don't walk away when they punch a hole in my salvage yard." The voice froze Ren in place. Low, rumbling, and unmistakably female, it carried across the debris field with authority. He turned slowly, hand instinctively moving toward the blaster at his hip. What he saw made him forget about the weapon entirely. She stood nearly 8 feet tall, her powerful frame silhouetted against the distant lights of what must be some kind of settlement. Covered in a short coat of tawny fur, with darker striations across her broad shoulders, she resembled nothing so much as a bipedal jungle cat from old Earth legends. A thick mane of darker fur framed a face that was both feline and oddly expressive, with eyes that glowed amber in the dim light. She wore what had once been a standard mechanic's jumpsuit, modified to accommodate her non-human proportions and tail. Heavy tools hung from a belt at her waist, and her massive hands, each finger tipped with a retractable claw, rested casually on her hips. Ren swallowed hard. "I didn't intend to land here." "Nobody ever does," she replied, approaching with a predator's grace. "This is where ships come to die, not to visit." She circled the wreckage of the Wanderer's call, expert eyes assessing the damage. Someone really had it out for you, didn't they? Ren nodded cautiously. I don't suppose there's a repair facility around here. A sound escaped her that might have been a laugh. You're looking at it. Name's Nyx. I own this sector of Tartarus Station. Everything that falls from the sky lands in my territory, and everything in my territory belongs to me. She fixed him with those unnerving amber eyes. Including you now, I suppose. Captain Ren Voss, he replied, standing straighter despite his injuries. And I belong to nobody but myself. Nyx's whiskers twitched in what might have been amusement. We'll see about that. Your ship is scrap, Captain. The kind of repairs you need would cost more than a new vessel on any civilized world. I have credits. Credits are worthless here. She cut him off. On Tartarus, we deal in trade, resources, skills. Her gaze raked over him assessingly. Service. Something in her tone made Ren's spine straighten. I need my ship repaired. What exactly are you suggesting? Nyx circled him now, much as she had circled the wreckage. I can fix your ship, Captain Voss. I can make it fly again when no one else in this system could. But my time and expertise don't come cheap. Name your price, Ren said, fighting to keep his voice steady as she loomed over him. 1 standard year, Nyx replied without hesitation. You work for me, exclusively. Your skills, your labor, your loyalty, all mine for 12 cycles. After that, your ship is restored, and you're free to go. Ren stared at her in disbelief. A year? That's slavery. That's business, Nyx corrected, her ears flattening slightly. And it's the only offer you'll get on Tartarus that doesn't involve stripping your ship for parts while you end up in the fighting pits or worse. She gestured toward the distant lights. This isn't a Galactic Alliance outpost, Captain. There are no laws here except those made by the strong. Ren looked back at his ship, the vessel that had been his home, his livelihood, and his only real possession for the past 8 years. Even in the dim light, he could see the extensive damage. No ordinary mechanic could repair this, not without resources he couldn't hope to afford. What exactly would this work entail? He asked carefully. Nyx's expression softened imperceptibly. I need a pilot, someone who can navigate the drift and handle themselves in difficult situations. My operation extends beyond simple salvage. She gestured at the wreckage around them. I acquire parts, repair what can be repaired, and trade with those who need what I can provide. And sometimes those acquisitions aren't entirely legal, Ren guessed. Legality is a flexible concept out here, she replied with a shrug of her massive shoulders. But I don't harm innocents, if that's what concerns you. I'm a businesswoman, not a pirate. A distant explosion lit the horizon, followed by the wail of some kind of alarm. Nyx's ears swiveled toward the sound, but her eyes remained fixed on Ren. Time's short, Captain. Those who shot you down might come looking to finish the job. I need an answer. Ren glanced again at his ship, then at the imposing figure before him. A year of service to this alien Beastwoman was a steep price, but the alternative was being stranded on this lawless outpost with a target on his back. If I agree, he said slowly, I want terms. Written and witnessed. Nyx's whiskers twitched again. Cautious. Good. That increases your survival chances. She extended one massive hand. We have a deal, Captain Voss. Ren looked at the clawed hand for a long moment before reaching out his own. Her grip was firm but surprisingly gentle, the fur on her palm rough like fine sandpaper. We have a deal, he said, sealing his fate. As if on cue, another explosion rocked the distant settlement, closer this time. Nyx's ears flattened against her skull. Welcome to Tartarus, Captain, she said grimly. Your first day on the job starts now. The contract. Dawn on Tartarus Station brought no sunlight, only a gradual brightening of the perpetual twilight as the planetoid rotated to face its distant star. Ren stood at the edge of a massive hangar carved into what appeared to be the hull of an ancient colony ship, watching as Nyx's crew, a motley collection of various species, swarmed over the remains of the Wanderer's Call. They'd moved his ship during the night, towing it with surprising gentleness to this cavernous workshop. Now, in the harsh industrial lighting, Ren could fully appreciate the extent of the damage. It was even worse than he'd feared. "Your reactor's completely fried," Nix said, appearing silently beside him despite her size. "Power couplings, navigation matrix, quantum stabilizers, all gone. Whoever shot you down knew exactly what they were doing." Ren nodded grimly. "Military targeting. They disabled everything except life support. They wanted you alive," Nix observed, her amber eyes narrowing. "Interesting." She handed him a tablet of unfamiliar design, its casing reinforced with what looked like salvage starship plating. On the screen was a contract, written in both standard Galactic script and another language Ren didn't recognize. The terms, Nix explained. 1 standard year of exclusive service. You'll pilot for me, help with acquisitions, provide protection when needed. In return, I'll restore your ship to full functionality, provide you with quarters, sustenance, and a 5% cut of any profits from our joint operations. Ren raised an eyebrow. "Generous. I reward loyalty," she replied simply. "Break the contract, and you'll owe me the full cost of repairs plus interest, more than you could earn in 10 lifetimes. Honor it, and we both profit." Ren scrolled through the document carefully. The terms were surprisingly fair, with clear limitations on what she could demand of him. No illegal activities within Alliance space, no harm to civilians, no missions with certain death probabilities above 60%. "You've done this before," he noted. "Once or twice," Nix admitted. "Good help is hard to find out here. Most who crash on Tartarus lack your qualifications." Ren looked up sharply. "What do you know about my qualifications?" Her whiskers twitched in that expression he was beginning to recognize as amusement. "Former Alliance Special Forces pilot, decorated veteran of the Proxima conflict, discharged under circumstances that remain classified." She paused. "I make it my business to know who lands in my territory, Captain." "That information isn't public," Ren said, tension building in his shoulders. "I have my sources." Nix turned to inspect a piece of his ship's hull that a worker was removing. "Your military experience is valuable to me, but it's your more recent work that caught my attention. Independent courier specializing in high-risk transports through contested space, a reputation for discretion, and completing seemingly impossible deliveries." She glanced back at him. "The question is, what was in your cargo hold that warranted such an aggressive response from pursuers with military-grade weapons?" Ren's jaw tightened. "Medical supplies for the Vega colony." "Of course," Nix said, clearly not believing him. "Sign the contract, Captain. We can discuss the true nature of your cargo after you've settled in." Ren hesitated only a moment longer before pressing his thumb to the screen. The contract glowed briefly, recording his biometric signature before saving itself to both the tablet and, presumably, Nix's central database. "Welcome to salvage operations," Nix said formally. "I'll have Kreb show you to your quarters." She gestured to a small, reptilian being who had been hovering nearby. "Get cleaned up. We'll begin your orientation once you've rested." As Kreb led him deeper into the massive structure, Ren caught glimpses of an operation far more sophisticated than he'd initially assumed. Beyond the main hangar, corridors branched into specialized workshops, storage facilities, and what appeared to be living quarters for dozens, perhaps hundreds of workers. "How long has she been here?" Ren asked his guide. "Mistress Nix." Kreb's voice was surprisingly melodious for a being with such a rigid facial structure. "She founded this outpost 15 cycles ago. Built it from nothing but a crashed freighter and her own 2 hands, or so they say. And now? Now she controls half the salvage trade in the Outer Rim. Ships come from 3 sectors away to trade with her." Krebs' vertical pupils widened with obvious pride. "Working for Mistress Nix is an honor, human. Many would kill for the opportunity she has given you." The quarters assigned to Ren were Spartanly furnished but clean and surprisingly spacious. A converted officer's cabin from whatever massive vessel now formed this section of the outpost. A bed, desk, private washroom, and even a small viewport showing the purple-hued sky and the vast field of shipwrecks beyond. "Rest," Kreb advised. "Mistress Nix will summon you when it is time." Left alone, Ren immediately began exploring his new accommodations, checking for surveillance devices out of long habit. He found 3, disabled 2, and left the most obvious one operational. No sense antagonizing his new employer on the first day. The washroom contained actual water facilities, rather than the sonic showers common on most stations, a luxury that spoke to either Nex's personal preferences or her technical prowess in recycling systems. Ren took advantage of it, washing away the grime of crash landing and the lingering scent of burned circuitry. As the hot water eased his aching muscles, he replayed the events that had led to his current situation. The attack had been too precise, too targeted. His pursuers hadn't been interested in the ship or even in killing him. They'd wanted him grounded and vulnerable. The question was, did they know he'd landed on Tartarus? And if so, how long before they came looking? Clean and dressed in the utilitarian jumpsuit Kreb had provided, Ren was about to test the comfort of his new bed when a chime sounded from the door. "Captain Voss," Nex's voice came through a speaker. "Join me for the evening meal. We have much to discuss." The mess hall was a converted cargo bay, with tables fashioned from repurposed shuttle wings and chairs made from various cockpit seats. Dozens of workers from at least 15 different species ate, drank, and socialized in a cacophony of languages and gestures. All fell silent when Nix entered with Ren in tow. She led him to a private table on a raised platform overlooking the hall. Once they were seated, conversation slowly resumed around them. "Impressive operation," Ren commented as a server, another reptilian being similar to Kreb, placed bowls of steaming food before them. "Far more organized than typical salvage outposts." "Typical salvage outposts are run by opportunists and pirates," Nix replied, sampling her meal with obvious enjoyment. "I prefer efficiency and sustainability." The food was surprisingly good, a rich stew of protein and vegetables that Ren couldn't identify but found delicious. He ate with the controlled hunger of someone who had learned never to waste an opportunity for nourishment. "Why me?" he asked finally. "You could have stripped my ship for parts and left me to whatever fate awaited. Instead, you're investing considerable resources in repairs and offering a fair contract. What makes me worth the effort?" Nix studied him for a long moment, her amber eyes unreadable. "Let's call it intuition. You're a survivor, Captain Voss. You've navigated situations that would have killed lesser pilots, and you carry yourself like someone who understands the value of loyalty." She leaned forward slightly. "Besides, I need someone with your particular skill set for a job that's been troubling me. I signed on as a pilot, not an assassin," Ren said carefully. Nix's whiskers twitched. "Nothing so dramatic. I need someone who can navigate the Cronus Rift." Ren nearly choked on his food. The Cronus Rift was notorious, a gravimetric anomaly that had claimed countless ships. Even with the best nav computers, the survival rate for passage attempts hovered around 30%. "That's suicide," he stated flatly. "Not for someone with your record," Nix countered. "You've made similar runs before, the Vega Narrows, the Tannhauser Gate. Your ship's flight recorder confirms it." "You accessed my flight recorder?" Ren asked, more impressed than angry. "Of course. Standard procedure for all salvage." She tilted her head slightly. "The Cronus Rift is dangerous, yes, but not impossible. Especially with the modifications I'm making to your ship." Ren set down his spoon. "What's on the other side that's so important?" "A derelict," Nix said simply. "An Alliance research vessel abandoned during the Proxima conflict. According to my sources, it contains technology that would be valuable to my operation." "Alliance military tech," Ren translated. "Probably classified. Definitely illegal to salvage. Outside Alliance space, their laws don't apply," Nix reminded him. And before you object further, consider this. That vessel has been drifting for over a decade. If we don't retrieve what's useful, someone else eventually will. Likely someone with fewer scruples about how they used military technology. She had a point, though Ren wasn't ready to admit it. And this is why you need me for a full year. One retrieval mission. The rift is only the beginning, Nix said, her tone softening slightly. I have other projects that would benefit from your expertise, and you'll need time to learn to pilot the modified vessel I'm creating from your ship's remains. A commotion near the entrance drew their attention. A worker, one of the tall, insectoid beings Ren had noted earlier, was speaking urgently to Kreb, who immediately looked toward their table with obvious alarm. Nix rose smoothly to her feet. It seems our meal will have to be cut short, Captain. We have visitors approaching the station, and judging by Forix's reaction, they're not here to trade. Ren stood as well, instinctively checking for the weapon he no longer carried. My pursuers. Unlikely to be coincidence, Nix agreed. She reached beneath the table and retrieved a holstered blaster, which she handed to him without hesitation. Consider this your first test of loyalty, Captain Voss. I protect what's mine, including my newest employee. The weight of the weapon felt reassuringly familiar in Ren's hand. What's the plan? Now we see if you're as good in a fight as your record suggests, Nix replied, her own much larger weapon appearing from somewhere beneath the table. As she checked its charge, Ren couldn't help but notice the grim determination in her amber eyes, and the way her fur had subtly bristled along her spine. Whatever was coming, Nix clearly expected a serious threat, and somehow, despite having known her less than a full day cycle, Ren found himself oddly committed to ensuring she survived it. Lead the way, he said, releasing the blaster's safety with practiced ease. Boss, hidden enemies. The security center of Tartarus Station resembled a warship's command deck more than a typical salvage operations monitoring station. Wall-to-wall screens displayed camera feeds from throughout the vast complex and the surrounding debris field. Holographic projections tracked incoming vessels and potential threats, while a team of technicians, representing at least 5 different species, maintained constant surveillance of the planetoid's airspace. 3 vessels approaching from Vector 227 reported a blue-skinned humanoid whose 6 fingers danced across a control panel. Military configuration, running silent. No transponder codes. Magnification, Nix ordered, her voice calm despite the tension evident in her posture. The central screen shifted to display 3 sleek craft cutting through Tartarus's upper atmosphere. Ren recognized the design instantly. Black Wraith interceptors, Alliance special ops vessels that officially didn't exist. Those aren't pirates or bounty hunters, he said quietly. Those are hegemony operatives. Nix's eyes narrowed. You're certain? The hegemony acquired that design from Alliance Black Ops 5 years ago. They used them for deniable operations in neutral territory. Ren studied the approach vector. Whoever they're after, they don't want any official connection to the operation. They're after you, Nix stated, not a question. Ren shook his head. I'm small time. A courier. The hegemony doesn't send kill teams for people like me. He looked at her directly. What aren't you telling me? For the first time since they'd met, Nix looked slightly uncomfortable. Her massive shoulders tensed, and her tail lashed once before going still. This isn't the place, she said finally. Vral, initiate defense protocol Sirius. I want all non-essential personnel in secure zones. Combat teams to positions 3, 5, and 8. She turned to Ren. With me, Captain. She led him through a series of increasingly secure corridors, finally arriving at what appeared to be her private quarters, a surprisingly Spartanly furnished space dominated by engineering diagrams and technical readouts rather than personal touches. One wall, however, displayed weapons of various designs and origins, from ancient-looking bladed weapons to cutting-edge energy rifles. Nix sealed the door behind them and activated a privacy field that made the air shimmer slightly. What I'm about to tell you violates several terms of my standard operating procedures, she said, her voice lower and more serious than he'd heard before. But circumstances have changed, and you deserve to know what you've been dragged into. She moved to a concealed safe, pressing her palm against a biometric scanner. The wall panel slid aside to reveal a small compartment containing only a data crystal and what appeared to be military credentials. My name is not simply Nix, she said, removing the credentials and holding them out to Ren. 15 years ago, I was Commander Nixera Vex, Chief Weapons Engineer for the Alliance 7th Fleet. Ren took the credentials with stunned disbelief. The holographic identification showed a younger version of Nix in full Alliance military dress, her expression serious and proud beneath the official insignia of a commander. You were Alliance military, he managed. I was part of the Kithraxi Integration Initiative, she explained, naming the controversial program that had brought non-human species into Alliance service after centuries of speciesist policies. One of the first of my kind to reach command rank. What happened? Ren asked, though he was beginning to piece together a troubling picture. Nick's ears flattened slightly. I discovered certain elements within Alliance High Command were developing weapons that violated not only our own ethical protocols, but galactic conventions, planet killers, genetically targeted bioweapons, technology that could destabilize star systems. She reclaimed the credentials and returned them to the safe. When I attempted to report through proper channels, I discovered the corruption went all the way to the top. My concerns were buried, my evidence erased. 2 days later, my lab was sabotaged with me inside. They tried to kill you, Ren said, understanding dawning. They succeeded, officially, Nix replied with grim humor. Commander Nixera Vex died in a tragic laboratory accident. Very sad. Posthumous medals were awarded. And Nix the Salvage Queen was born. Not immediately. I spent 3 years gathering evidence, building contacts, establishing this operation. She gestured around them. What began as a hiding place became something more. Every piece of technology I salvage is one less weapon in the wrong hands. Every ship I repair is a potential ally. Ren processed this information, his mind racing. The hegemony operatives, they're not after me at all. No, Nix confirmed. Though your arrival may have drawn their attention, the hegemony has infiltrated certain sectors of Alliance intelligence. If they've discovered I'm alive, then they're here to finish the job, Ren concluded. But why now, after 15 years? Before Nix could answer, the station's alert system blared to life. Red emergency lights bathed the room as a voice announced. Perimeter breach in sectors 7 through 9. All combat personnel, respond. This is not a drill. Nix moved to the weapon wall and selected a complex-looking rifle, which adjusted to her grip as if alive. They're moving faster than anticipated. They're not here just to kill you, Ren realized aloud. They're after whatever you've been collecting. The evidence against them. Nix nodded grimly. Among other things, I've spent 15 years acquiring technology they don't want made public. She selected a second weapon and tossed it to Ren. A more advanced version of the blaster he already carried. If they take this station, countless lives across the galaxy are at risk. Ren caught the weapon, feeling its perfect balance. Military grade, custom modified. So what's the plan? We have 3 options, Nix said, checking her rifle's charge. Stand and fight. Try to evacuate key personnel and data, or activate the station's self-destruct. That escalated quickly, Ren muttered. I don't take chances with planet-killer technology, Nix replied seriously. The hegemony cannot be allowed to acquire what's in my secure vault. The communication system chimed, and Krebs' voice came through. Mistress, invaders have breached the main hangar. They're heading toward the central hub. Acknowledged, Nix responded. Activate defense drones, authorization Vex Alpha 7. She turned to Ren, her amber eyes reflecting the red emergency lighting. I understand if you want no part of this fight, Captain. You signed on as a pilot, not a soldier in a war you didn't choose. Ren checked his weapon, a familiar calm settling over him. The battle readiness he'd thought he'd left behind years ago. I was a soldier before I was a pilot, and I'd never been fond of the hegemony. Something softened in Nix's expression. Not quite a smile, but an acknowledgement. Then let's give them a proper Tartarus welcome. They moved through the station with practiced efficiency, Nix taking point while Ren covered their flanks. The sounds of battle echoed from multiple directions. Energy weapons discharging, the metallic clatter of the station's defense drones, occasional explosions that shook the deck plates beneath their feet. We need to reach the central data hub, Nix explained as they paused at an intersection. From there, we can lock down the secure vaults, and, if necessary, initiate emergency protocols. How many people do you have defending this place? Ren asked, noting the organized resistance they could hear through the corridors. 53 combat-trained personnel, plus the automated systems, Nix replied. Against what sounds like at least 20 hegemony operatives. Not bad odds, Ren commented. They don't need good odds if they brought what I think they brought, Nix said grimly. Listen. In the momentary silence between weapons fire, Ren could hear a faint, rhythmic thudding sound growing steadily closer. Heavy footsteps, mechanical in their precision. Combat frames, he realized with sinking recognition. Exactly, Nix confirmed. The hegemony's newest toy. Military exoskeletons that turn one soldier into a walking tank. I've only seen the prototype designs, but if they've perfected the technology. She didn't need to finish the thought. Combat frames could tear through standard defenses like tissue paper, making even hardened military outposts vulnerable. For a salvage station, even one as well defended as Tartarus, they could be devastating. We need a shortcut, Ren decided, studying the corridor junctions ahead. Is there a maintenance access that bypasses the main corridors? Nix nodded, impressed by his tactical thinking. This way. She led him to what appeared to be a solid wall panel, then pressed a sequence on her wrist device. The panel slid aside, revealing a narrow service tunnel. Engineering access, she explained, runs throughout the entire station. Only senior staff have the access codes. They crawl through the confined space, the sounds of battle becoming more distant as they circumvented the main areas of conflict. Ren noticed that Nix, despite her size, moved with remarkable agility in the tight quarters, further evidence of her military training. How much farther? He asked as they passed through what felt like their dozenth junction. We're almost. Nix began, then froze. Do you smell that? Ren inhaled deeply, catching the faint scent of ozone. And something else, a chemical tang he recognized from his military days. Breaching charges. They're already at the data hub, Nix growled, her fur bristling visibly. Move. They increased their pace, finally emerging through another hidden panel into a corridor just outside the central data hub. The massive door to the facility had been partially melted through, the edges still glowing from the power of the breaching charges. Inside, they could hear movement and voices, human voices speaking in the clipped tones of military personnel. Nix signaled for Ren to hold position while she assessed the situation. Carefully peering around the damaged doorframe, she counted the intruders, then pulled back immediately as a barrage of weapons fire nearly took her head off. 4 operatives inside, she reported. 2 combat frames guarding the entrance. They've already begun data extraction. Can they access your secure files? Ren asked. Not without my biometric signature, Nix replied. But given enough time, they might bypass the security. Ren considered their options. 2 against 6, including 2 combat frames, were not favorable odds. But if they waited for reinforcements, the damage might already be done. I have an idea, he said finally, but you'll need to trust me. Nix studied him for a moment, then nodded. What do you need? Your primary command codes and access to the station's internal systems, Ren said, and about 3 minutes of distraction. For the barest instant, doubt flickered across Nex's features. Entrusting the human she'd just met with the keys to her entire operation was clearly not in her protocol. But then determination hardened her gaze. "Code's transferring to your device now," she said, tapping her wrist unit. "What's the plan?" Ren explained quickly, watching Nex's expression shift from skepticism to a predator's anticipation. "That's either brilliant or suicidal," she commented when he finished. "Either way, it's bold. I like it." "On my signal," Ren said, moving to a nearby access panel as Nyx readied her rifle. He worked quickly, using Nex's command codes to access systems he shouldn't have been able to reach as a brand new employee. The station's environmental controls, security protocols, and internal defenses all open to him. "Ready?" he asked, finger hovering over the final command.